What is going on, everybody? I have a bunch of stuff going on in my ears right now, but this is Rob Coakley. Erik, can you take over for one moment?
Yes. This is how it goes, by the way. You think it's all going to be super easy and all rosy, and then it's a 30-second intro clip, and you're probably trying to share it on Twitter. You're probably trying to do this, that, and the other thing as the thing is getting introed. And then the next thing you know, the intro video ends and you're like, oh shit, my computer's not working, or I can't hear the other person. And there's really nothing. It's not like you can hit pause and re-record. You're just live. And you just have to kind of figure it out. So you get to see a little bit behind the curtain of sometimes what is a funny process. But we are back, Spike Week football show, where if you missed last week, we did kind of the first one of these, and we're obviously going to continue to work our way through formatting and all that different stuff. But Rob at King Coakley is going to be hosting this show every Tuesday, hopefully around this time. I'm kind of going to leave that up to him, as Shane says, of course, hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. But football, the NFL and in this insane game of best ball that we play, and really just fantasy football in general, has become, it's a year-round game, right? I mean, there's people in the Spike Week Discord and plenty of other people that are drafting on underdog for 2022 right now. Shoot, I am too. It's just kind of a year-round game. And so we wanted to put in a football and an NFL focused show that just kind of goes year-round. So we'll definitely be talking plenty of just the latest news and rumors. And a lot of it will be obviously with a fantasy spin, but just kind of talking football all year round. And then, Rob has tons of fun and sometimes maybe crazy ideas that we will get into. But welcome back, Rob. Welcome.
Thanks. That was I've never had that happen before. So, today we are going to hit on some of the NFL news. I'm sure Erik said we're going to talk about some of these NFL head coaching changes. That one particular thing is blowing my mind. How is Bieniemy not a head coach right now?
Yeah. And so the Saints job is still open, right? That's the only one. That's the only one that's still open.
No, they hired the DC.
Oh yeah. You're right. I missed that.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
I saw that, but I missed it originally. So there's no head coaching jobs, and Bieniemy still does not have a job, but Lovie Smith has a job.
Right. I mean, I love the new beard, Lovie Smith. It looks great.
Yeah.
You look completely different, but I don't know how you're getting another shot. And the only thing I can think of with that Houston situation is he's just setting up to be a fall guy for next year. And the best example I can give of that is, I don't know if you remember this, a couple of years back, San Fran hired their team janitor or something like that. And everyone was like, what? Why is this guy a head coach? And At the end of the year, they fired him, and we knew it was coming. So I just assume that they're like, all right, we know we're going to suck again this year.
Yeah.
We don't want to set up whoever we really want to bring in for failure. So we're just going to give it Lovie Smith, and then we'll bring our guy in next year when we're a little more established or out of this Watson situation, and we have a little bit more bearings on stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Tom Sula will now forever be the janitor. To me, that's the new Tom Sula nickname, is the janitor. But So explain this part to me. Maybe I'm just an idiot. This is what Jason says here is what I'm thinking. Didn't they just have the fall guy? Didn't they just have the guy that they didn't give a shit about as their head coach? Clearly, because he actually did a deal. Like I'm not saying he's even a great coach or whatever, but they were like competitive enough, right? With a horrible team. The team seemed to like him, I guess. I don't know, but if you were just gonna do that, why did they even go through the process of hiring another guy? Maybe they didn't like what was his name? Dave. I don't know. It's not coaching name day. The chat will figure it out for me. But like, what was the point of firing him if they're gonna? I agree with you, but like, what are we jumping through all these hoops for?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, so like my take on head coaches is if you're, yeah, he outcoached. He did outcoach Zimmer in week 1. It did happen, but my take is like if you're hiring a guy that you want to run your organization, I think, granted, some like crazy like thing like they had with Joe Judge with the Giants, you got to give this guy 3 years to rebuild the team, especially a team like Houston, who we know they're not winning a Super Bowl next year. Get freezing cold takes ready for this, but they're not winning a Super Bowl next year. So you need a guy that you're like comfortable with, that you're like, I'm going to give him 3 years to prove that he's going to be able to build this team up to at least hit playoff caliber levels. And I just think a lot of these teams are giving up on these coaches that they're hiring too soon, or they're just hiring fall guys. And Bieniemy either has to be completely blowing these interviews, or people are still scared to give him a shot. And to me, like, come on, guys, like he's an OC. Like what happened with him was over 20 years ago at this point. It's time to let this dude coach an NFL team. He's proven that he can coach.
It's such a tough deal with him because it doesn't make any sense, just like in a vacuum, without any further knowing anything behind the scenes of what's going on with him. Like you said, is he just a god awful interview? Maybe like, there's things that we obviously don't know. Something that I saw floated, I think last offseason, that kind of makes a little bit of sense to me is like a lot of these jobs, like maybe he just doesn't want them. Like he is he is in the dream spot other than being a head coach of a good team, right? He almost like borderline runs the show with Andy Reid, and like he has Patrick Mahomes for his entire time that he's going to be, with the Chiefs moving forward. Tyreek Hill obviously will still be that right there. He's always going to be the head coach of an elite offense, even like once Kelsey's gone. And so unless the job that he like really wants opens up, like maybe he actually doesn't want these jobs. I'm not saying that that's the case, but it could be a lot of different things. I'm just trying to explain away why one of the clearly most viable candidates for a head coaching job never gets a head coaching job. And meanwhile, the Texans should hire him and just do exactly what he said. Dude, you got 6-7 years to turn this thing around, start bringing in the guys that you think fit your system and just ride with him. The only other thing that I was going to bring up that I was thinking about while you were saying that isn't it funny that the teams that should give guys, right? Like the Dolphins should have gave Flores more time. Right. He was already turning it around, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Never do it. They always fire him immediately. Like way too early. And then the fucking Bears will hold on to the absolute dead weight. Like everyone has known for years now, Matt Nagy was not it. It was a failed hire, right? Joe Judge, the Giants came out and said, we know that we made a mistake hiring this guy. We want to get rid of him, but we might keep him because everybody is going to make us, going to make fun of us. Basically, is what they said. Like that's how they think about these things. It's just so absolutely bizarre to me, which tells you a lot about some of these franchises.
Well, to your point, the two teams in the Super Bowl this year were the kings of that. The Rams fired Jeff Fisher. The Bengals. I mean, what were the Bengals doing for 14 years? You'd be like, all right, they're going to finally move on from this head coach. Marv Lewis is definitely gone. And 2-year extension. And you're like, bro, like what is Cincinnati? Like if I was a Cincinnati fan, I would have been losing my mind for probably 7 years over that. And they would just extend them and your head would just explode and you would have no clue.
Purgatory. It's purgatory. They were they were actively entering purgatory. Purgatory.
Yeah, like we're really going to get through with this Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton combo. I mean, and this is usually the biggest problem for NFL teams. And this is my biggest fear for New England right now is Mac Jones being the purgatory quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am scared to death that this guy is going to be just good enough to sign these extensions here and there. And they're going to be a 500 ball club. Yeah. And we're just stuck with Kirk Cousins. And
Kirk Cousins is the purgatory. It's the same thing. He's the purgatory quarterback.
Yeah, and I just I don't understand how Bieniemy doesn't get hired. I think there was 8 or 9 jobs open this year.
I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to this question. Do you? Silas asked. I love Bieniemy, but how involved is he in the offense? Andy Reid is still the offensive genius. From my recollection, that it's not like just Andy Reid, but I definitely don't have the exact breakdown of who does what.
Well, it's time to find out.
Yeah,
you have to find out. Like you got to give this guy a chance. Maybe that is something that we don't know though. Maybe teams are pretty aware that it's like, okay, Bieniemy's there, but it is all Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I
mean, Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man just got hired, and it is. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve that job. I actually think he did, but Kyle Shanahan is Kyle Shanahan. Like Kyle Shanahan calls the plays. Kyle Shanahan is the man. He's the brain behind the operation. Now, this God damn it, I can't remember what his name is. Mike Dolphins head coach.
It's like Mike McDonald or something.
McDaniel, yes, Mike McDaniel. Which we did the Flores thing last week, so we don't need to get too deep into this. But the peak NFL was them trying to make him known as a minority NFL head coach because his mom's black, right? But he looks like me, right? Like this pasty looking white dude. Like you would never, and he's like super awkward and weird, right? He just seems like this nerdy white dude.
He is so ready to fire stats at you. He just he is ready to go. He is the quintessential Peter Overzet turning around in the middle of a heavy rap song and going, "Hey everyone." Like that is who that guy is. That is the poster boy for that look. So yeah. So
anybody that plays DFS, all I can think of is imagine him on a show with Osimo. And those two, if you also, he's brilliant, right? But he's like a fucking robot, right? He's a genius DFS player that is just a total robot, and that's how I imagine. And then them trying to be funny to each other. They both have distinctly goofy, awkward guy laughs and stuff. So those kind of guys are the best. I mean, I hope that dude succeeds, but the fact that the Bieniemy thing, the fact that Mike McDaniel is getting a job when, like I said, I think he probably deserves it. But the guy has been Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. And I think everybody understands that Kyle Shanahan is also the offensive, brain of that operation.
Again, to go to this year's 2 teams, McVay, he's the offensive genius, right? And Zach Taylor was his guy.
Yep.
And he brought the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So I think that proves that you got to give these guys a chance. I mean, give them a 2-year thing. If it goes downhill, then you can get rid of them, like the Joe Judge thing. But if he's showing improvement or showing that the team's coming together, then you got to keep that guy. So the other news story that I think we should just hit on, and I think we can do this real quick, is Alvin Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
What are your
pay-per-view? We can pay-per-view Mike McDaniel and Osimo on a football stream. I agree. I haven't. Somebody said so. I haven't looked into it anymore today. I obviously heard the news about him getting rested. I also heard that it happened the night before the Pro Bowl. They let him play in the Pro Bowl and then arrested.
Gotta let him play.
I mean, What kind of world do these guys live in? Just an absolutely different fucking world that they can go play an exhibition, basically a flag football game.
Yeah.
After then get arrested for battery. So that was pretty wild. But
more hitting in the nightclub than on the actual football field the next day.
There was way more contact from Kamara and this dude in the nightclub. But somebody texted me that it was on video, I guess. So maybe you know a little bit more than me. I don't have all of the information, but what I will kind of just pipe in, at least like from a real life perspective, and I'm not really going to comment on a guy getting charged with something. It happens. If he did something wrong, he deserves whatever happens to him, blah, blah, blah. But from a fantasy perspective, like if he doesn't, go to jail, we've basically seen that the NFL is not going to lay down a hammer too heavy on any, right? Ray Rice, what Ray Rice did, I'm not saying is better, worse, whatever, but Ray Rice was caught on camera doing something really, really bad and was not suspended for very long, right? Tyreek Hill managed to escape despite tons of different accusations and issues that he has gone through, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think, there's concern, but I hopped in a couple of drafts over the last couple of days on Underdog just to kind of see how things were going. And he's definitely like really falling. And I'm not really sure that this changes anything about his fantasy. Obviously, it introduces more risk for sure. But just based on precedent, I'm not overly concerned. I'm definitely going to knock him down a little bit. But I think the market is, as the market usually does with any sort of kind of risk-worthy news story, is going to panic over this and be like, oh my God, he's going to prison. He's going in the second round. I can't take him. And he might fall and he might be a worthwhile investment at a certain point. So that's kind of where I stand so far on Kamara.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't change anything because I wasn't drafting Kamara anyways, most likely. So this is what we talked about last week with him is I'm not doing anything with that Saints offense. So if I had that little hesitation after 20 drafts, I'm like, maybe I should get some Kamara. Now I'm like, okay, well, this just helps me. You're on the right path. I'm not getting him from a actual take standpoint. We haven't seen the video. I was in Vermont, so I'm piecing stuff together because Vermont has no cell phone service pretty much anywhere. So what I'll say is, to me, this is a little different in the aspect that he's at a nightclub in Las Vegas. He knows the situations he's putting himself in, but also anytime an athlete, wrestler, any of these big guys go out to a nightclub, two things happen. There's a bunch of guys that want to be their friend and buy him drinks, and there's a bunch of guys that want to test him. And occasionally you're going to test them on the wrong night, and occasionally you're going to get your ass knocked out. So I don't know what actually happened in the video, so I'm still reserving judgment. But, sometimes people get what they deserve. And it sounds like that might have been the case in this situation. We'll know more as it goes along. But 5 years is the sentence they're talking about. I doubt that's going to happen. But, man, if that happened, tough scenes for the Saints that are already in trouble.
I will also say I was quickly pulling up Kamara's Wikipedia here, a trusty, reliable source, obviously, which I didn't know all of this. I didn't know all of this background, but he was a big-time recruit out of college and actually went to Alabama. I actually didn't know this because I knew he came from Tennessee, but I didn't know he went to Alabama and was on the team with Derrick Henry, TJ Yeldon, Kenyon Drake. He was on an amazing Alabama team as a freshman, and all it's saying is he had a rough experience. Literally, I guess it's quoting some. Maybe he said that or something, but he had a rough experience at Alabama, and Saban banned him from practicing with the team because of quote behavioral issues. He then transferred to Hutchinson Community College in Kansas, which if you've watched whatever the documentary is on Netflix, they're in there a little bit. JUCO football in the South or in the Midwest South, whatever. That's not where these guys want to be, and it's a lot of guys that probably need some time to figure out their life. And so he went there and then went to Tennessee. So maybe a guy I wouldn't be fucking with, probably me as a 6 foot white dude from St. Louis. I probably would not be going after Alvin Kamara in the nightclub personally.
Yeah, but alcohol and
Yeah, that's true.
trying to show off in front of some friends sometimes. And I think we've all seen it with people that aren't celebrities, when we were younger. I mean, I saw it, quite a few times where people just do some stupid things, man, and they get the receipts for it. So,
Yep.
all right. So I think that we can move on from news. What I wanted to talk to you about before we start ranking these AFC teams is we've been doing some of these best ball drafts over the last week or so. And I wanted to talk to you about any outliers you see, like guys that you're like, oh man, this guy is going at this particular spot. And how do I draft anyone else but this guy? So spoiler, I told Erik about this beforehand. I told him the one guy that really caught my eye is Devonta Smith. I've done 2 or 3 drafts. I've gotten him in all 3 of those drafts, and it's been 5th, 6th round for him. And to me, that is bananas. Like what we saw from that guy, especially at the end of the year last year. We talked a little bit about the offense for Philly last week, but they wanted to be a pass first team, and they kind of got bullied into running the ball a little bit. So I think they're going to go back and try to balance it out a little more. I don't think you're going to see them leading the league in rushing by the end of the year. So they're going to be thrown to Devonta Smith. They're going to be thrown to Dallas Goedert. And I just think Devonta Smith showed that he has what it takes to be an elite 1 wide receiver in this league. So 5th, 6th round, like give me all of the Devonta Smith right now if I'm going to get him that. I mean, throughout the rest of the year. But I don't know how to draft anybody else right now other than him in that price range.
We were talking also a little bit super quickly before the show that another reason why you might be super overexposed to someone in that range is that if you've done any fantasy drafts already, particularly on Underdog, that like 5th, 6th round is honestly painful.
Yeah.
Like it's really painful. So like you'll go through and it's like maybe Chris Godwin falls. Michael Pittman is there. Michael Thomas is there. Devonta Smith, Elijah Moore, who is a guy that I like a little bit more than your Devonta Smith thing, but like they're very, very similar type bets. And so it's like the same things, like Tyler Lockett, like Darnell Mooney, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I'm not saying I like or dislike any of these guys, but like what we're probably used to maybe in the 5th round in terms of like kind of slam dunkish type wide receivers or even running backs don't really exist there. And so the same thing for me is like, I actually kind of like Michael Tyne. We talked about the Saints last week being out on the Saints. I've come around a little bit more on Michael Thomas thinking about the Saints, but like, if I'm going to default in this like almost like dead zone of the entire draft to anyone, like I said, there's Elijah Moore and Devonta Smith, 2 second-year wide receivers with all the opportunity in the world. That I'm more excited about the Eagles offense than the Jets, but the Jets offense really can't be worse than last year. And he was a smash when he was out there. And same thing, when Devonta Smith was starting to finally get some freaking opportunity and they opened it up a little bit, same thing. He was a smash. And so it's like, I struggle with that range. And I just keep looking at like those 2 guys. Like I forced myself to take some of these guys already in some of these drafts that I don't necessarily love or definitely don't like more than those guys. And I've taken like a quarterback there or something because the same thing. I don't want to just keep clicking. Like I moved Devonta Smith down in rankings. I think I moved Elijah Moore down in rankings too, because I don't want to just be literally clicking the same 2 guys every single time in the 5th and 6th round. I want to kind of mix it up a little bit more, but that'll change when the like Best Ball Mania and all that stuff gets here and the ADPs kind of really start to settle in. But as of right now, same thing. Like those 2, it was those 2 guys at wide receiver that stuck out for me like the most.
All right. So 2 things. First, somebody in the chat clip Beimfohr saying that the Jets can't be worse than last year. And get ready for freezing cold takes. 12
last
months
last week I was on the Giants, which we literally just posted making fun of me about being bullish on the Giants, and now I'm going to be, for the 2nd year in a row, I'm going to be bullish on the Jets. And it's like, Jesus Christ, Like, what? Like, are you trying to lose money? You just keep talking yourself into the Giants and the Jets every year.
And secondly, the way I recall the 5th round last year, early, because we're degenerates and we started drafting best ball early. Now, early last year was May, June. Early this year is February because we're psychopaths, right? But early last year, the 5th round was like it started the Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. They got slowly escalated into the 4th round. But I remember loving the 5th round right away. And I don't remember if I sent this question to you, but I was questioning, I sent it out to a lot of people, like, should we be looking to reach on the people going in this round so that we double up the exposure so that we could get a Godwin Kupp or a Godwin, DJ Moore team? Like, I know we're getting them a full round before, but the only way, and it lets you get unique as well, right? So that's my point is this year, that 5th round is ugly currently. Now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, after free agency, we might be like, oh my God, I love the 5th round again. That might happen. But for now, like, I'm looking at this stuff. I'm just going Devonta Smith, man. Elijah Moore, I'm on board with that one too. I would definitely take Elijah Moore as well, but everyone else is just ugly. And running backs are even more ugly than normal.
It's really bad. Yeah. I my fear, I want to know what you think about this, because my fear is your take on the 5th round. Like, that won't happen this year because like, honestly, my take on these rookie wide receivers is the cheap ones might move up a little bit depending upon landing spot, right? Like, Jameson Williams is my favorite rookie wide receiver. I think I know he has the ACL, has the potential to move up a little bit. Like, if he lands somewhere advantageous, maybe a couple other guys, right, have a chance to. Everyone but Sky Moore. Sky Moore is not moving up. Sky Moore is not an NFL wide receiver. Shout out to the ship chasing guys who were.
I heard him getting touted.
It was bad. And they put. It's bad when, like, we'll all get excited about every prospect, right? And they pulled up the YouTube video of Sky Moore, and they're like, like, why are we taking this guy again?
Yeah.
So anyway, but my kind of take is that, like, the Treylon Burks and Drake Londons and stuff. This is not Jamar. They're not Jamar Chase. They're probably not Jalen Waddle. And so the hype of, like, last year, I think, has got people just hyped on these rookies. So I think they probably fall. I think maybe you get a Mike Davis situation where 1 or 2 running backs move up, right? But the rookies are already priced pretty hefty. And, so you maybe get a couple of running backs that move up. Other than that, I don't really see, like, how many free agent wide receivers are, like, I like some of these free agent wide receivers, right? Will Fuller's a free agent, Allen Robinson's a free agent, etc. But how many, Godwin's a free agent, but how many of those guys can, like, sign somewhere where you're like, oh my God, yes, this is a 4th or a 5th round pick, right? Like you said, last year, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, those were 4th, 5th round picks. Last year, DJ Moore,
Mike Evans,
Debo went Brandon Ayuk. Debo went way later than this, right? Yeah. Like, there was so many. Mike Williams was a 9th round pick, eventually got steamed up to, like, the 7th, 6th. So I just think we're in a different kind of environment.
Hollywood was like a 10th rounder at one point, and that's the guy I was grabbing every time. I was grabbing him in the 10th round. Yep. Like, he's Lamar's number 1 wide receiver. I know there's Andrews there, but who else do they have? Bateman, we didn't know how long he was going to be hurt.
Yep.
They were rolling out corpses on the other side.
So I just kind of think this might be, like, partially a dead zone. It's a spot where nobody likes anybody. And so I do think we might get steam on the guys that we mentioned, the young guy, right? The young guys always get the steam, basically. Maybe a free agent or a rookie running back, right? Last year, Etienne and Javonte kind of settled in around 5th, 6th range. So I think we might get.
There's a guy I want to talk about.
Etienne or Javonte?
Etienne. So he's going. What is he going right now? It's crazy, right? 3rd round, 4th round, somewhere like that. I just see that and not even just where he's going. I'm hearing the hype on him from everyone. Everyone is talking about Etienne.
50.7 ADP. So what? Early Fifth.
early fifth, late fourth, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Too high for that guy.
Let me see where
he's coming off of that injury that a lot of people have had trouble coming back from. I know he got it early, which is nice, but he hasn't played an NFL game yet. The only good thing going for him is James Robinson got hurt at the end of the year. So he has a chance to take that backfield. So I understand that. The Jags still suck, though. Like the Jags, I mean, they're not good. And we're doing what we did with Deandre Swift last year, where everyone's talking themselves into this guy because, he's what Detroit has. And yeah, he had some games. They were good. But it was still a mediocre offense that overperformed from what they should have been performing. And I'm not saying the Jags can't overperform, but overperforming is still mediocrity for this team at the current moment. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let you guys take ETN, and I'm probably going to pass on him most of the time.
I like that. That's interesting. The Swift comp is a pretty good one, actually, because it was solely a DeAndre Swift talent bet. Everyone was willing to accept that the Lions were going to stink, right? That was the consensus, and they did. Spoiler, Jared Goff, not very good. No weapons, also not very good. And honestly, DeAndre Swift as a runner is not very good. And so like we were talking about the offensive line, and DeAndre Swift is just so good that we need to take him. As a receiver, that is 100% true. He's an electric wide receiver. And so maybe we're going to try to make that ETN comp, but ETN is not as natural of a wide receiver as DeAndre Swift is. I talked about that a little bit last year. Like, he's competent in the passing game for sure, but he kind of had to learn that. If you watch him, he is not a natural catcher of the football. And he talks about, like, he knew he had to learn how to play in the passing game to play in the NFL. And he did, which was great, great for him and great for drafting him. But DeAndre Swift is like basically a wide receiver playing running back. Right. He's like closer to, like, people, we love to make Debo comps, right? I made fun of the Debo thing. You want to make a Debo comp, like DeAndre Swift is closer to freaking Debo than a lot of people.
That's fair.
Are making it out to be. And ETN is like more of a running back that learned how to play in the passing game. And so, I have him probably about at market value, and I'm probably gonna take some, but I am thinking more about kind of what you said. And I think, we get very hyped on the young, talented running back, and I understand it, but I think that there is a little bit more caution that we should mix in with ETN than maybe the market is putting out there.
And I'm going to be taking more stands on guys this year. Not every single player, but I did it last year. Like I'm going to bring up Kamara again, but we talked about him. I talked about Swift. I've made a stand on him. I made a stand on Kupp without realizing it. I just didn't have enough of him. It wasn't, again, I didn't hate him, but I loved that round. So I was grabbing everybody from that round.
Right.
And if I see that again, I know this year it's okay to reach on a guy from that round so that I get two from that round going forward. Don't have to do it every draft. It's not something I have to do every draft, but it's going to help me get unique builds. Right. Mm-hmm. And it still is a viable alternative to just picking people on their ADP, like, 70% of the people are doing. Yep. So it allows us to just be a little different. So those are things I'm going to be looking at this year, and I'm going to be making my stands on guys that I either love where they're getting drafted, or that I'm going to just be completely booting players that I just have no interest in taking. If I don't want them, I'm not going to take them. If I lose because of it, so be it. That's where I'm at this year. So
I like that too. That something I've kind of always been more predisposed to that line of thinking. And then, listening to a lot of smart people around this industry, right? We're kind of, preaching a little bit more of the diversification aspect of things. And then this year playing it out, and then also talking to Liam and talking to Tony. I mean, the two people that won $1 million, talking to other very smart people, and listening to how many of these people took big stands, like big, huge stands, full fades on guys, big, massive exposure to certain players or certain stacks or whatever. And like when I think about it, it's not the same thing as DFS. Right. But like, I come from a DFS background, and when you enter a DFS slate, like, there's X player that has, an X probability, an X value, right? X price. And so he deserves a certain level of exposure. In best ball, it's not quite that same equivalent, but you wouldn't go into a DFS slate and just say, yeah, I just need a peanut butter spread it across. No, the best plays get a much higher exposure.
Right.
And I would rather more meat in the middle, right? I'm not going to have 80% of someone like you might on a DFS slate, right? Cook is out and you play 80% Madison. We're not going to go to that extreme, but I do think we want to take, educated like bets on plus EV, high upside, high payoff type of players. So I'm fully on board with that for this year.
All right. Before we rank these offenses, is there any person you think in particular is like you're just looking at and you're like, how am I just not taking this guy every single time other than Elijah Moore?
Yeah. The teammate of the receiver that you brought up, it's Dallas Goedert. It's Dallas Goedert. He's maybe my favorite pick in all of draft. Like I love Kyle Pitts as much as the next person. Kyle Pitts is getting steamed like absolute fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And like I said, yeah, I mean, I'm going to end up not having as much Kyle Pitts as I want because everybody wants. I mean, he's one of the sexiest picks in the draft. So anyway, Goddard is the guy that like. How much different is Goddard than Pitts? And he goes way later. He goes after Hawkinson. What's the difference between him and Waller? What's the difference between him and Kittle? I mean, Kittle's a better football player, I guess, but like from a target share perspective, from what we saw down the stretch, we've been wanting to draft Dallas Goedert for years, multiple years now when we just needed Ertz to be out of there. Ertz left, and we saw Dallas Goedert like have an absolutely insane role for the Eagles. And like you said, they can't possibly run that much again, knock on wood. And so he's just going to be a target dominator at tight end. And he's just going way too late to me. Like I have him as the tight end 4, I think 3 or 4,
which is like fair. That. And for tight end currently this year coming up, it doesn't feel like there is that elite tier anymore. No, it feels like Kelsey's been pushed down. Waller's been pushed down, even Kittle. So like you get those 3 guys, plus you get Pitts, plus you get Andrews, plus you get Goddard, and I guess Hawkinson. So like it's like I'll take whoever's left of those 7.
And Goddard goes last,
and I'll take Goddard. So
Goddard goes last out of all those.
Yeah,
guys.
To your point, like I completely understand that line of thinking because tight end's always brutal, and we used to just want to get it and just have it locked up and. I don't know if you're locking it up anymore based on the way the position's going right now. I think Pitts has the potential to be that number 1 elite tight end next year for sure. But if he's getting steamed to levels that I don't want to take him, then I'll settle for a Goddard or I'll settle for Mark Andrews if he starts swinging down again. So I love the Goddard talk. And I think it just shows why we put the Eagles as that, stack but don't go out of my way. Because you're getting the Eagles like an efficient offense for under what they should be going for almost on every single guy. Every single player. So they're the team to be watching. Now I think Smith is going to rise, and I think you might end up seeing Goddard rise a little bit too. But if it stays how it is, man, this is the team that you're going to just have somebody on every single roster you build. So.
Yep. Miles Sanders is free. What also doesn't make any sense to me is Miles Sanders is super cheap, but Kenny Gainwell is also super cheap.
Right.
It's like it would be like if we're going to push Miles Sanders to the 9th round, which whatever, that's fine. We should move. Somebody needs to come up. It's like because in theory, then they're the one that's ruining Miles Sanders. But Boston Scott's a free agent. That Jordan Howard is not a thing. It's Miles Sanders. it's Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell, but Gainwell's ADP hasn't risen. All that's happened is Miles Sanders has fallen. So they're just in that team that they're one of the teams like you kind of outlined that when like BBM opens, I'm kind of hoping the ADP at least stays similar to this as it is right now in the big board, and that's the team I'm just going to smash early because there's nowhere to go but up, in my opinion, for all of them, basically.
I completely agree. And like we said, they're going to bring somebody else in that's going to make this team even better on the outside because Rager ain't it. So
No, he's not.
All right. I am going to share my screen now. So as I'm doing this, I'm just going to talk about what we did last week, we decided to rank the offenses as they are currently constructed in the NFL and put them in tiers, which are give me stacks or give me death, which is like a team that we're doing everything we can to just draft this team or one of the teams in this tier. Stack but don't go out of my way is a team exactly like the Eagles we just spoke of. We are either getting them like at crazy cost, or it's a team like the Rams that we put in there where we think their cost is a little too high. So if we fall into them properly, then great, but we're not going to like go nuts trying to get them at their ridiculous ADPs. One off in most drafts. We got 3 teams in that right now. So like the Carolina Panthers, we like DJ Moore. We're probably going to be drafting CMC for sure in some drafts, depending on what happens with him. He's an interesting player right now. I saw Davis Maddock talking about, is he going to be the 101 again overall? And, you want to make fun of it, but then you're like, maybe it could be.
Yep.
Then there's the one off and maybe every 5 drafts. Atlanta, we were just talking about Pitts. He's the guy that we're looking for, but because of his ADP, we're maybe getting him a little less than we want. And finally, full fade, you idiots, is teams like the Green Bay Packers, where we don't want any part of that right now. We brought up AJ Dillon last week, and not that we don't love AJ Dillon, but we don't love him on the team as it's currently constructed. So we're not going to be looking at getting any of him, especially at his current ADP. So what we're going to be starting with is Erik is going to start us off with his second favorite football team, the New York Jets, since he's such a big Jets lover, and let us know where he's going with them.
I can't believe I'm getting roped into this already right off the top. But
Jets. I need clips. I need clips for next week. So
I've been set up for another clip. I am going to put the Jets into. I'm gonna do one off maybe every 5 drafts, just because I'm trying to think through some of the drafts that I've done. They're there, but they have the potential to be the one off in most drafts. And it's actually not because I'm bullish on, like, I know I kind of said they can't be worse. I'm indifferent on the Jets, but it's a little bit of a cost thing and just the individual player thing. Elijah Moore is definitely a guy that's going to be a target for me. I found myself taking Corey Davis in a fair bit of drafts. He's extremely cheap. He was one of those guys, remember, he was just dominating the preseason and just got steamed out of this world. And then obviously that didn't work out. I think I would like to buy back on him. And I think Michael Carter is totally reasonable. So they're just a team with enough exciting young players. And they had, when healthy, right? Elijah Moore was good. Michael Carter showed that he could be pretty good. Corey Davis had some good weeks. Jamison Crowder had some good weeks. Braxton Berrios was having good weeks. I think that there's potential in this offense, at least from a fantasy perspective. And so they're definitely not a full fade for me. And so they're somewhere between one off in most drafts and every 5 drafts. I put them in 5 drafts.
So I'm exactly where you are with these guys, and it's because of their ADP. Just what you said nails everything. The Michael Carter ADP is fine. The receivers ADP is fine. Zach Wilson is going to be going super low, so you can backdoor stack this team if you really, really wanted to. So currently, and they could get better. They could be a team that absolutely brings some pieces in and gets themselves ready for this next season. And the division isn't that great either. I mean, Buffalo is going to dominate it, of course, and New England's always going to hang around while Belichick's there as the head coach. But it's not like there's an elite. I mean, I guess if you really want to argue Buffalo, sure, but the rest of the division is an elite, and Miami's going to take a step back. So I'm fine, honestly, with them on one off in most drafts or every 5 drafts. I'm fine with either of those. So I will let you.
Let's put them in most, just because I think if anything from the 5 drafts, they would go up. They're never going to go to a full fade. I don't think.
Right.
And so if anything, they would go up. So we can put them in most.
Okay. So I will hit on New England. That is the next team on this list. I mean, it is what it is with this team. Their Damian Harris is at a decent ADP at the moment. I mean, I'm going to grab him here and there. And the only other guy I'm looking to grab on this team right now is Hunter Henry. So I'm not looking to stack this team by any means. Again, it's the same thing with the Jets. You can fall into the Henry Mac Jones stack if you really wanted to. I don't love it, but I'm not drafting Jacoby Myers. I wasn't drafting him last year. I mean, we know why. He's what he is, and that's all I can say about him. He is what he is, and that's 5 catches for 60 yards. That is, they're going to put that on his tombstone. Here lies Jacoby Myers, caught 5 passes for 60 yards every single football game that he played in his entire life. That's what he does. So why am I going to draft that guy? I don't care what his ADP is. He's never going to get into my lineup based on where I'm drafting other wide receivers. So everyone that loves Jacoby Myers, I'm sorry, dude. Like, that guy, he sucks. And I will tell you that right now. That guy sucks. And they don't have any other receivers. They have Aguilar, who proved to be nothing. Jonnu Smith has become the blocking tight end. So what are we doing here? We're playing. I like Henry, and I like him at his ADP for sure. Definitely as a second tight end. So they're one off maybe every 5 drafts for me. I'm not going to full fade because of where we can get Henry. But I mean, if you wanted to put him in full fade, you idiots, I'm also fine with that.
No, I think it's every 5 drafts. It's hard for me to ever put a full fade on a team with like a dirt cheap quarterback.
Yeah.
Because of what you just said. Like, we could tell ourselves a story about every team. Fuck, I did it with the Giants last week. I did it with the Jets this week. We've done it with some really bad teams. I did it with the Panthers for 6 months last year. I talked myself into Sam Darnold and Matt Rule, and we saw how that worked out. And so I'm never going to write them off. I also think Kendrick Bourne is fine. Again, not super exciting, but right. If you have a robust running back team or something, and he's your wide receiver 7, like, it's fine. It's fine. They're all fine, right? They have three or four guys. I think Ramondre as kind of the contingent value running back is fine. So like, they have 4 or 5 guys that are fine. And so that just puts them in every 5 drafts.
Right. All right. So now you get the Miami Dolphins.
Ooh, they're fun. They're fun. The hard part is doing them right now because obviously they have a new coach who I'm excited for, said new coach, but we don't really know anything about other than Jalen Waddle and Tua. And I guess Tua is not a 100% lock. I think he's probably a lock. But outside of them, no one is a lock. They've already been talking about floating Devontae Parker trade, possibility. And I think it's a stone cold lock. They bring in somebody at wide receiver. The Will Fuller experiment obviously did not work very well. And I would like to target their running game. I know their offensive line was horrid last year, and that's why it didn't work out. But I would imagine that they understand that, and that's an area that they're going to correct. The issue is, like, Myles Gaskin lost his job to Duke Johnson down the stretch. Do they want to bring Duke Johnson back? Are they going to go to Myles Gaskin? Are they going to go to free agency? Is McDaniel going to go to Mostert? Mostert's a free agent. Is he going to bring him in? So that the only issue for me is, I think I'll still put him in every 5 drafts because I'm not going to full fade Jalen Waddle, even though that price makes me pretty uncomfortable. And I'm definitely not going to full fade Tua. And so I think Hunter Long is a kind of reasonable, totally off the board tight end, like last round tight end. I'm not sure that they bring Gesicki back. They took Hunter Long in the 3rd round last year, something like that. So anyway, they have enough pieces, and I'm actually bullish on them next year. The problem with them being any higher than 5 drafts is, like, there's just I only know 2 of the guys that are even going to be on the team next year.
Right. So for me, I can see that too. So this is the team that is real interesting based on which site you're drafting on for me, because as much as I love Waddle, he is way, way better for DraftKings than he is for Underdog, right? Like, so on DraftKings, I have to make sure I have Waddle. I'm not convinced at Waddle's current price point. I absolutely have to have him on Underdog. I want him. Don't get me wrong. I want him. But he fits so much better on that DraftKings scoring system, which I think we'll talk about at some point. I think a lot of people don't get hung up enough on the scoring system. Yeah. And they're drafting players like that they should be drafting for DraftKings on Underdog, and they're constructing their rosters like they're on DraftKings, and they're not. Mm-hmm. You're playing half point PPR with no bonus. So you need to be working that in on certain players. And I think Waddle's one of those guys where if he's too high, I'm only going to want him on DraftKings. So
Yep.
one off in every 5 drafts makes a ton of sense. But I do see them. They have the potential of moving up 2 spots. They could be in that stack, but don't go out of my way category, depending on what this roster shakes out to be. Like you said, the running game, all the other stuff, the wide receiver too is going to be cheap enough if he's the quarterback. So
I think they have. I legitimately believe they're the only team that we have down here that could be in the very top column. That the coach is a coach that we trust.
Yeah.
They very clearly have the foundational pieces that are at least good enough. Right, Tua is good enough. Waddle is obviously good enough. Devontae Parker is good enough, and they could bring in, like you said, a third wide receiver, and then they totally upgrade the offensive line. They have paths to really just steaming up this board, but just the way it is right now, I can't. It's tough. It's tough. It's really tough to do anything with them. I'm mixing in a little bit of like Gaskin and Duke Johnson and just kind of hoping and dreaming about the situation, but it's just tough.
All right. So now I'm on to the Buffalo Bills, which is the easiest one on this entire list. Complete full fade, you idiot, because eat it, Liam. Nobody's drafting a goddamn Bill this year. You want to tout them all you can. And guess what? None of us are drafting Bills. Not allowed. I'm just kidding. Obviously, Bills are an easy give me stacks or give me death. We're going to be taking, all these guys. Singletary proved himself. I don't know if he's going to do it again next year, but we're looking at the passing game. We're looking at the running game. We want Allen. We want Knox. We want Diggs. We want Gabe Davis. I even want Isaiah McKenzie cheap when I can have them. So they're clearly going into the top tier with the 49ers and the Cowboys, unless you have any objections.
No, the only thing is what Silas brings up here is if we call stacks or give me death, not 100% having to have the quarterback. Like I would be totally cool having 3 or 4 Bills on my team, probably 3, without Josh Allen. Right, kind of like a secondary stack, a stack without your quarterback, which I think is totally like I literally took 0 Aaron Rodgers teams last year, but I went after the Packers quite hard, and so I would still say that that's like a give me stacks or give me death type of situation. The only thing I don't really have much to add. I totally agree on Isaiah McKenzie. I think he's the guy who could be. I think they could let Cole Beasley go, or I think Isaiah McKenzie could win, just take that job from him.
Yep.
And we saw the upside. Good Lord, the guy has crazy upside. And then I don't understand. Everyone loves running backs, right? We've done the Josh Jacobs dead zone thing. We did the fucking Mike Davis. We anointed Mike Davis a 4th round pick. Devin Singletary actually did it.
Yep.
He did it for half of a season, a third of a season or whatever. Was like one of the top 5 most valuable, top 3 maybe, most valuable running backs in fantasy. He did it, and he goes in like the 90s. Like what? Tell me, like I'm the one buying high on Devin Singletary, not the running back people. The running back people are drafting Mike Davis.
And who's the Bills running back everyone's talking about? Have you noticed who everyone's talking about for Bills running backs right now?
No.
It's oh my God, who's the guy that they hate? Who's the team?
Moss.
Zach Moss. Everyone's talking about Moss. They're all talking about drafting Zach Moss, and I interject myself in the conversation. I'm like, what is the thought process on Zach Moss? Like, are we thinking that he's going somewhere else? Because I can't imagine him being a Bill next year. So if I'm drafting Zach Moss, it's completely, a shot in the dark that he's somewhere else for the next season, and he finds his right place to actually produce. I'm not drafting Zach Moss thinking he's going to produce on the Bills. So. Yeah, Singletary should be going higher, and people should be talking about him more, in my opinion. He has the potential of getting steamed, and to Josh Allen getting drafted 24, I'm fine with taking quarterbacks high here and there. I'm not doing it every draft, but I'm okay with, I was okay with taking Mahomes early last year. What, 3rd round, 2nd round?
I think Allen is different than Mahomes too.
Yeah.
Mahomes doesn't run like that. Like, it's just a different beast. Allen can go out and throw for 304 and run for 2 touchdowns. Mahomes just isn't gonna do that. So mixing them in, I agree. I'm not trying to get like 25% Josh Allen, but mixing them in, I think is better.
Right. All right. So this puts you on the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh. I'm trying to think this one through. So as you can probably guess, I'm off Derrick Henry. Julio Jones is made of pixie sticks and bubble gum late in drafts. Tannehill, I think, is reasonable. And obviously, I'm going after A.J. Brown. So we're going to do every 5 drafts for this. And it's almost entirely because of A.J. Brown. But I will say Julio goes extremely late. Extremely late. And so I'm not bullish on Julio, but a guy people were taking in the 4th, 5th round last year and did show a couple of spikes in a good offense is now going in like the 14th round. So I'm going to mix him in. So that would be 5 drafts every 5.
Yeah. And I was busting your balls about Tannehill the other day, but this team has no out on Tannehill really.
Yep.
So I can't imagine it's going to be anyone but him this year. That Rodgers stuff is ridiculous unless I'm proven wrong. So I'm with you on one-off maybe every 5 drafts. I'm closer to one-off in most drafts because I would love to get A.J. Brown as much as I can. And I'm probably a little more bullish on Derrick Henry than you are, specifically on Underdog.
Yeah.
He's built for that site. So if he's going to fall to me at the 4th or 5th pick, then I'm going to take him. Just like I did last year. I was taking him over Dalvin Cook. I was taking him over Kamara. I would rather have him than those 2 guys. That's why I liked the 104 last year, because I was getting Derrick Henry a lot of times in that spot. So, I mean, obviously we all wanted CMC in the 101, but the 104 was my next favorite spot because otherwise I was taking Derrick Henry and then some Dalvin Cook in the other 2 spots. So I'm fine with one-off every 5 for now, which brings us to the Houston Texans. I can't do it. I can't do it, man. I thought Davis Mills showed that he could be a capable NFL quarterback. I know Brandon Cooks looked really good. That dude scares the hell out of me. I'm scared. He's the one guy that I wish retired because I'm scared for his health because of the concussions. So I just think he's almost done. He should be done. And what else do we want on this team? That everyone was trying to tout tight ends last year for them. They didn't do anything. The running game didn't do much. Burkhead here and there, but we were trying to, we're done with David Johnson, right? We're done with this.
Please, God. Yes.
Please. Can we please be done with David Johnson?
Yes. We are done with David Johnson.
Trying to make him a thing. So they're a full fade for me right now. They obviously have the potential to go up because they can't go further down. But
yeah,
I think we talked about it earlier. I think this is just a throwaway year for them again. And they're trying to get out of the hell that Bill O'Brien put them in with some of those awful, awful, awful trades.
Yeah, I have no problem with full fade. Cooks is so funny because I was out on him last year. So part of my one thing that I do sometimes it hurts. Cooks I didn't draft Cooks in 600 drafts or whatever it was last year, but it also I didn't draft Waller either. Is basically like when your entire ADP is driven by you being a volume hog on a bad team, and like there's so many ways that can go wrong. Like when you are Brandon Cooks on the Texans, it's like this past year was like what the ceiling. Like it can't really get much better.
Absolutely,
he's just getting peppered with targets, and he's a year older. He's a small, not the traditional type of alpha wide receiver. So things can just go so wrong so fast. I kind of like, like you said, like the Brevin Jordans at tight end or something. But like, what are we really doing? Like, is that guy going to be the league winner? Like,
right?
No, probably not. So full fade would be my preference too.
All right. And before Erik gets into the Jacksonville Jaguars, I just want to remind everybody to like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Make sure you're giving us a 5-star review on the podcast, wherever you listen to it. And join us in the Discord because there has been some really interesting conversations in there lately. So with all that being said, where are you putting the Jaguars?
Jaguars end up in every 5 drafts here. The AFC is just going to be littered with every 5 drafts for me. But I'm a little worried about them. I think everybody is. I think we're probably all maybe a little bit too bullish on Trevor Lawrence, a little bit too. everybody was definitely too bullish on Visca, but just a little bit too bullish on the total situation and whether it was the Urban Meyer effect, whether Lawrence really isn't that good. I think there's plenty of room for, concern with this offense. However, it is the second year of Lawrence, right? Marvin Jones is back. Visca is back. I don't know if that's a good thing. ETN will be back, and I suspect, Chark is a free agent, but I suspect they'll bring somebody in, whether it's Chark comes back or somebody with some talent to round out the wide receiver core. And so I think between I am going to dabble a little bit in ETN, and I'm definitely going to dabble in buying low here on Trevor Lawrence. And so they're just that mix them in kind of team that I'm not going to have zero exposure to, but I'm not very excited for either.
For me, they're a full fade right now. I'm with you on the Trevor Lawrence second year thing, but I'm not in love with 93-year-old Marvin Jones.
No.
I
haven't taken him yet.
I'm not in love with the Tin Man Laviska Shenault anymore. I was last year. I let people talk me into him. Never again. I would love to see DJ Chark go to the Bears. Are we doing Dan Arnold? Is he still on the roster?
He is.
Are we taking him late? Hopefully.
Yeah, it would definitely be late.
And I'm out on ETN, so Laquan Treadwell late.
He's a free agent also.
If they re-sign him,
they re-sign him late, yeah.
Which they could. I thought he was the best looking. Jones had his games, but I thought Treadwell at least looked decent for them at points last year.
He looked like their best wide receiver. Yep.
So, if we can put them in the one-off maybe every 5 drafts, I'm just going to look at the camera and say, hey, this is Rob. And I said that we were going to full fade them because they're Jacksonville Jaguars, and they will always be the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
I just can't put a team with Lawrence and ETN in full fade. Well,
that's probably where we differ, is because I'm out on ETN and you're you're not.
It's probably just that, honestly, because if we were just literally arguing over Lawrence, I would be like, yeah, whatever. Yep. I don't give a shit about Trevor Lawrence, but I think it's just that I'm not going to full fade ETN.
Right. So that gives me the Colts. This is to your point. This is another easy one-off, maybe every 5 drafts, because we're taking Jonathan Taylor when we can. Whether that becomes the 101 or the 102, wherever that shakes out. I think he's going to stay at the 101, right? We don't think CMC is going to pass, and people are going to be too scared.
I think so. Yep.
So again, site dependent. I'll probably take CMC the 101 on DraftKings, and I'll probably take Taylor on the 101 on Underdog. But that being said, I'm taking Pittman. I'll probably be able to fall into Wentz here and there if I need to for the stacks. So they're one off every 5 drafts for me at the moment, and I don't really have much else to say about this team.
No, the only thing I would add is my favorite late round tight end, I guess maybe other than Trey McBride right now, but McBride could be a guy we end up not excited about depending upon landing spot. But Mo Alley-Cox and Jack Doyle are both free agents for the Colts, and they spent fairly decent draft capital on Kylan Granson last year, a pretty good receiving tight end. And as we saw last year, why did Pittman smash? Why were we drafting Paris Campbell? Why did all these guys put up production in Indianapolis? There's no goddamn target competition, and it's a tight end friendly scheme. And so between him and JT and the possibility for something else to emerge on this team, they're definitely every 5 for me right now, but they also have the potential to move up to one off in most.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that take as well. As we let you run through the I still want to say the San Diego Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Stack, but don't go out of my way, and it's not anything other than a combination of ADP and kind of uncertainty around what happens, right? Mike Williams is a free agent. Mm-hmm. Jared Cook and Donald Parham are free agents at tight end. And then like Eckler is expensive and Herbert and Keenan are expensive. And so I do like Josh Palmer. I'm extremely excited for this offense. It has nothing to do with this offense. If we knew, like, we're probably going to do this again, right, in the summer, and I'm going to be like, yeah, give me stacks or give me death because we're going to know it all. But right now, I just can't. You know, there's no real way to make that happen. So fairly clear stack, but don't go out of my way for me.
Yeah, they're the Rams. They're exactly the same as the Rams. So I'll add nothing to that, and I will just jump right into the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know if I'll jump right into it because I don't know what I want to do here. Look, Renfro, he's a site-dependent guy for me. I'll take him on underdog if he falls enough. He's going to get steamed too high now.
Yep.
Waller, he's going to fall, so you can grab Waller. Derek Carr, we've had our Derek Carr discussion. We think he's, another purgatory quarterback for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of the higher end ones, but still is. And what's Josh Jacobs got? One more year there?
Yeah.
So, why does everyone shit on Josh Jacobs? By the way, he's fine.
I kind of like Josh Jacobs. He's like fine. He's probably like a deciding point. It's so funny because he became the bit name, the meme name for the running back dead zone and the running back lovers. But like I actually think Josh Jacobs is a totally fine like real life player. And like now this year he is probably too cheap. Like I kind of like Josh Jacobs this year. So it's kind of all come full circle.
Yeah. So I guess we're one off. I hate putting them here. I hate putting all these teams in the same category, but they're probably one off maybe every 5 drafts.
But that's how it should be, right? That's how you're probably only really stacking a handful of teams like aggressively, and then the rest are like you're probably only getting so much of those.
Which is a fair point. It's just it doesn't make it as much fun. So are you in agreement on them? Do you have anything you wanted to add on the Raiders?
No, we did have a little Renfro conversation in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, make sure you go to spikeweek.com and hit Discord at the top, and it'll take you there for free. The Renfro ADP is very just like overall concerning for me, right? Waller missed a ton of time. Ruggs was gone. They're trotting out the course of Deshaun Jackson. Zay Jones is a starting wide receiver. Bryan Edwards stinks. They didn't really have anything else. And Renfro is definitely good. But we see he is strictly a slot receiver. And I guess maybe that will change, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
So
why?
He's very, very dependent upon them being able to play, 10 personnel and not take him off the field in games where they didn't, when they would play multiple tight ends, or maybe they play a fullback or something. He's playing like 55-60% of the snaps, and he needs the volume to get there, right? He's not busting off 60-yard touchdowns. So I just have a little bit of concern for Renfro, but in turn, I'm actually kind of excited for Josh Jacobs, which I don't know what that says about me, but 5 drafts pretty clearly.
And Lunder's got a question. He says, do you think Kenyon Drake could be the James White guy in a McDaniels offense? I just don't think he has the same the same skill set as James White. So I would say no. I could be proven wrong, but I wouldn't be touching Kenyon Drake, and I wouldn't even be shocked if they try to get another guy in to replace him for that James White role.
But I think whether it's Drake or a rookie or something like that, I think whoever is behind Josh Jacobs has value, because I think that this offense is totally like we're just saying we want to invest in it enough, and we kind of like Josh Jacobs. So if Josh Jacobs goes down, which he seemingly does every single year, at least for a stretch, I think there's value in whether it's Drake or someone else.
All right. Let's get into I think this is one of the most interesting AFC teams. What is your Denver Broncos take?
So the hardest part about the Broncos is how do you classify this? Because I'm in. Like there's not even a question. They're going to get a quarterback upgrade. What is the quarterback upgrade? Everybody is like wish casting Aaron Rodgers, right?
Let me just interrupt you real quick, because there is a report that they are going to offer Teddy Bridgewater a 2-year contract.
Oh my God.
So I did see that, which blew my mind a little bit.
That definitely blows my mind, because that seems like just next level willful incompetence. Like, it's one thing to be incompetent and like not really know it. It's another thing to be like, yep, we're going to do this Teddy thing again when we have all of these. And it's not even just that they have all this talent, right? So they locked up all of their talent. First of all, Melvin Gordon is a free agent, but obviously Javonte is back. Noah Fant and Alberto at tight end are locked up, and they extended Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. And obviously KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy are under their rookie contracts still. So they have their entire offense is ready to freaking rock and roll, but they need a quarterback. Yep. And so the assumption, and the same assumption I've been making all offseason, is that quarterback upgrade is coming. It's too obvious. It's just way too obvious that this offense would pick one. You know, I'm not saying it's Rodgers. It could be Russell Wilson. It could be Deshaun Watson.
It could be Kyler Murray.
Could be Kyler. Yeah. It could be if Kyler decides not to go play for the A's. Maybe Kyler Murray makes his way out to Denver. But they're just such an obvious spot for all these guys, and the market hasn't totally gone crazy on them yet. You know, Javonte is expensive, but Jeudy is affordable. Sutton is affordable. Patrick and Hamler are free. Fant is still totally affordable. And so I think the market is going to go, you know, we're going to find out fairly quickly what they do at quarterback. So stacks, but don't go out of my way, I guess is where I would put that, just because of the awkwardness of the quarterback, but I'm definitely in on the Broncos.
Yeah, I was hoping we would be different on this one, but they're secretly one of my favorite teams to be watching the ADP on and grabbing some of these guys. And I think they are the current specific team to draft early for. Them and the Eagles are the current specific teams to be drafting early for, because you can get, there's none of them are going, other than Javonte Williams, are going super early. So you can get any of the guys you want late and build your entire roster and then throw them in. And if that offense hits, boom, off to the races with that offense. So with the rest of your team too. So I'm definitely stacks, but they're probably going to end up in that top tier if they get a quarterback.
Yep.
I think that's pretty easy to say at this point in time. So
the division is amazing. Like Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders. Like, what more can you ask for if they get a quarterback?
Yep. So honestly, an interesting team this year is the Kansas City Chiefs. Where are you leaning with the Chiefs?
So this is weird because I'm closing at like maybe 20 big board drafts, 15 or something like that I've done. I have like so little Chiefs that's kind of where my mind is going to when we start this, because it helps me think through how I'm attacking them. And like, I don't hate any of them, but I think it's probably every 5 drafts, because I don't hate any of them, but it's kind of like the Patriots. Like, this is a weird parallel, but the Patriots were the team where we were like, yeah, Hunter Henry's fine. Damon Harris is fine. Kendrick Bourne is fine. Mac Jones, if I have to do it, is fine. That's how I feel. Like, Tyreek Hill in the late first is like, that's fine. You know, Travis Kelce in the early second is fine. You know, do I have am I going to mix in a little CEH in the 8th or 9th round? I guess that's fine. You know, McCole Hardman, I guess, is okay. But like, I know how good so it feels weird, but that's how I compare them very much to the Patriots. When I click them, I'm like, it's fine. I'll get my little bit of them, but I'm not like blown away. You know, like I'm more excited for the Broncos than I am for the Chiefs, which it's just it feels weird, but it's every 5 drafts. It's like whenever it makes sense to take them, I'll take them. But other than that, I'm not going out of my way for them.
Yeah, and the problem with the Chiefs is the same problem with the Chiefs you have every year. They're way too expensive for their top 3. You know, the big 3 is too expensive. If you're stacking the big 3, you have to hope that you can hit Hill late first. You got to grab Kelce early second, and then Mahomes is 3rd. Maybe he's 4th round right now. So you're dedicating 75 to 100% of your first 3 to 4 rounds to one team, which is tough. And 2-3 years ago, it made sense for them. I can't do it now, and I want to do it. But I can't do it because I like money. and if you don't like money, 15% Hill. Ethan says 15% Hill or death, and it's like, I guess if I run bad in where I get my draft slots, then yeah. But are you gonna reach on Hill ever in the first round?
Why would you reach on Hill when Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are there?
You could last year.
Yeah,
you could absolutely do it last year.
Yes.
You can't right now. You can't do it.
And we're gonna know about Devonta soon. We're gonna know what's up with it. Like, he could just be back in Green Bay with Rodgers. And are you gonna take Tyreek Hill over Devonta Adams, Justin Jefferson, or Jamar Chase? I'm not.
Right. So you're not reaching for him anymore like you could last year. And he's never gonna fall to you either. So he's like one of those guys that's gonna go what? He's either gonna go 9, 10, 11, probably, maybe 12, probably not. But somewhere in those 4 picks, he's always gonna go. Unless you're in like some batshit crazy draft where somebody, is just doing weird stuff.
Right.
So you gotta, I don't know, man. God, this is the video I make next week. But the Chiefs go one off maybe every 5 drafts and insert circus music and put fucking clown noses on both of us because
I was just gonna say, put the 10 over top of us and put clown noses on our faces because you're like, wait, you're fading the fucking Chiefs, you goddamn morons.
Right.
Like, and they're not that expensive, you know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing, fading the Chiefs? But like, I don't know, that's how I feel.
Yeah. So I'm with you, man. God, I hate it. I gotta take a shower after this stream. Just to get ready for the next one.
Yep.
All right. So the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. So because I actually hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. It hurts for me to say that. Fantasy wise, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers because it's not like Denver on if they bring in a quarterback. It's who they bring into quarterback, right? They have to bring somebody in.
Right.
And that guy is set up for success, whoever comes into this team. He's got the workhorse running back to open up the game for him. He's got the wide receiver core. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. This team, they're going to lose Juju, but that's fine. Their top 2 studs are there. I'm probably – it's tough to say stack, but don't go out of my way yet, because we don't know who the quarterback is, but I'm going to go ahead and say stack, but don't go out of my way for the Steelers now, because if I can get Claypool, Deontay Johnson, or any combination with them with Najee Harris. Oh, and let's not forget their tight end, Freiermuth.
Yep.
I want 2 of these guys. And if I accidentally pick the quarterback before they sign them, then boom, we're golden. So I'm going to be nuts, and I'm going to say, stack, but don't go out of my way on the Steelers right now.
I think I agree. I love the Chase Claypool ADP. I'm definitely in on Freiermuth had a great year last year. He's definitely a good football player. So you're not concerned about that. You're just concerned about kind of what the offense looks like. And honestly, can it really be worse? I know I said that about the Jets, and clip this one off too, because they'll have Mason Rudolph out there or whatever. But like, even then, how much can it really be worse? And so,
if they have Mason Rudolph out there, I'm writing a letter to somebody. I don't know who, but we're gonna do Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh. Are you? No,
you can't run Mason Rudolph after Big Ben.
I'm not allowing it. It's not happening. I will actively get on the phones with somebody, and I will complain. I will Karen the shit out of this offense if they try to pull some Mason Rudolph bullshit out there. They can't do that in this division.
They're gonna draft some. The rumors are how much they love Malik Willis, which will be really bad actually for this year. He's a upside project type of guy, but I would guess that they would. I think they might do a Malik Willis and a Band-Aid veteran, Teddy. I'm not saying they're going to have Teddy, but you know what I mean? A Teddy type. of guy, which, I mean, Teddy would be an upgrade over Big Ben. Like, I give me Deontay and Chase Claypool and Najee even if it's Teddy, because he's just a lot better.
I'd rather just give me
is.
Drew Lock, the guy who's not scared to throw it down the field.
YOLO it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so anyways.
All right.
You got me all fired up. My blood pressure's up now because of this. You're talking about they might run out Mason Rudolph. What is your Ravens take?
My Ravens take is I think we're going to go one off in most drafts, and it is again a little bit ADP type of situation. I'm not particularly bullish on paying the peak price for Mark Andrews. So as it stands right now, I'd probably be fairly underweight him. But the situation puts me really bullish on Lamar Jackson. And so Lamar's ADP hasn't budged. If anything, it's fallen a little bit. And now he has Bateman. He has Hollywood. He has Mark Andrews. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are going to be back. The offensive line was horrid last year, and they don't need to spend any equity on the skill guys. So they're probably going to spend it on the offensive line. And so Lamar's going to be, and he fits in that. We talked about the 5th round, 6th round, how bad it is. We'll just drop Lamar right in there.
Fair.
And take Lamar. You can stack him with Hollywood later. You can stack him with Bateman later. And I kind of like Gus Edwards. I was drafting a little bit of Gus Edwards last year. I know now he's coming off an injury, but I mean, if you watch the end of last year, like Devonta Freeman was popping off as an RB1 for certain weeks, and then Latavius Murray, was it week 18? Latavius Murray looks like, the second coming of, I don't know, Emmitt Smith or something out there. He's just dominating in their ground game. And so I just want exposure to this offense. And I think the prices are totally reasonable. So most drafts, I would say, for Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with everything in that. And I don't know what else to say about them other than their ADPs are great. Just like you said, Hollywood's still too cheap. If we can just, mail him a pair of hands, he's going to be a top guy. Exactly. And we're off to the races with him again. So yeah, one off of most drafts for sure. And honestly, they're almost stacked, but don't go out of my way. They're borderline. They're the closest team probably out of this list to go up right now. Just based on some of the ADP stuff. And like you said, Lamar 5th, and then you can stack them with Bateman or Hollywood. And Andrews, I think Andrews is going to probably end up either staying right where he is or falling. I don't think he's going to get steamed
agreed,
like where he's going to get higher. So
yep.
Cleveland.
Oof.
I like Chubb's ADP right now. I'm going to be honest about that. I think Chubb in the 3rd. I think I just got Chubb in the 3rd somewhere. And he was a borderline 1st rounder last year. He is the prototypical underdog back. You should be drafting him an underdog. You should have been drafting him last year an underdog. And I think he's the only one that saves them from being a full fade and makes it a one-off maybe every 5 drafts. I don't have anything to say about the passing game because I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think you can mix DPJ in.
Yeah, because he's so cost
but he's so cheap, and I think he's a talented enough player. It's like, are we going to argue about 17th round player that's reasonably talented and has a path to targets? But other than that, yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
All right, where are you on the Bengals?
So the Bengals, you're definitely going to have to scroll closer to the top here on the old Bengals, because the Bengals might be maybe the situation we should be most bullish on, not necessarily just from a stacking in a best ball fantasy football perspective. But when you think about the Bengals, you have the franchise quarterback. That's like the hardest part of the whole situation. Then maybe the second hardest part of the whole situation is you have the superstar wide receiver, right? That's done. Got that figured out. Now we also have, spoiler alert, maybe the best number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. And then we go right on down the list to one of the best number 3s, if not the best number 3. So we figured out all the entire skill group, and they've now played together. This will be the 3rd year next year. Mixon will be back. The coaching staff is back in place. they have one offensive flaw, just one, and they have no reason to draft any other positions on the offense. Of course, they could invest in the defense a little bit, but from a spending and free agency, the only thing they need to do is improve the offensive line. It's the only thing that held them back from being a really heavy pass rate team, and it's the only thing that held them back from when they were throwing from having more success than they probably could have had. They are just a rocket ship as an offense, in my opinion. And I know that Burrow has gotten a whole lot more pricey, and he's not, this super high or super heavy rushing quarterback. Chase is in the first round, Higgins is in the third, blah, blah, blah. But I'm putting them stacks, but don't give me death. I don't care. I'm doing it. You can go crazy with even like a freaking Tyler Boyd and Burrow stack, but I just don't see any reason why this offense isn't a total rocket ship heading in to next year. And I understand draft cost and all of that, but like, they're cheaper than the Chiefs. I'm not really sold on why they should be cheaper than the Chiefs. Like, I'm maybe more bullish on the Bengals. And so I like I said, I understand ADP, but I want the offenses that can go absolutely nuclear, obviously for the season. But like, if you get to the last week and you have a Burrow, Chase, Boyd stack, I guarantee you're going to feel good about it compared to look at all these other shitty teams that we thought. Are you going to feel good about Mac Jones to Jacoby Myers? No, you're not. Are you going to feel good about, Wentz to Paris Campbell? No. But if you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, you're going to feel pretty damn good in the championship of a best ball tournament.
So before I give my take on this, Boyd is definitely under contract with them, right?
Yes.
That was the one contract I meant to look up this week and completely forgot to, because if he wasn't, I was pretty sure he would be gone. So I agree with everything you say.
He is. Two more years.
Oh, so then
2 more years.
So that definitely helps, because he'll be too cheap.
Uzoma is not. If CJ Uzoma is moving the needle for you, he is not.
So here's my take. I'm gonna look at the ADP on them, because you're not gonna like sneak up and get Jamar Chase anywhere other than the top, 5-6 picks right now. Yep. That's where you have to get Jamar Chase. So he's ceiling already. Joe Burrow is gonna go way higher than he should. Okay, maybe not way higher than he should, but way higher than I would want to take him consistently.
Agreed.
T. Higgins is going to get steamed out the fucking ceiling this year.
Yeah.
He got steamed last year. You thought last year T. Higgins got steamed? This dude is going to get steamed yet again, because people don't want to give up on their takes, especially if it looked like they were right. So T. Higgins, you're going to hear that name all freaking. They're going to be like, well, I couldn't get Jamar Chase in the first round. So you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to get T. Higgins in the third. And that's what I'm doing. So you're going to see T. Higgins get steamed to like third round level. So now you're talking guys way, way, way out of where they were last year. Understandably so, but the main guys are going to be tough to get. And the only guy that's going to be even reasonable to get is going to be Tyler Boyd. Joe Mixon is even going to be too high. And so you're looking at guys going in each round for this team. You're probably looking at a first round Jamar Chase, a second round Joe Mixon. I bet a third round T. Higgins. And then Joe Burrow is going to go, what do you think? 7th, probably, if he's not already.
Yeah, higher. Probably
6th.
Higher. Yeah.
So would I love to stack this team and have them on give me stacks or give me depth, which is where we're going to put them, because that's I'm going to give you this one. But for me, the Cincinnati Bengals, as currently stand ADP wise, are one off maybe every 5 drafts, because it is going to be impossible to draft this team. And you're not going to see many teams that have those T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stacks that didn't sacrifice everything else to get them.
Yep.
And what are you putting around them? So yeah, we'll put them up to the top. And I understand everything you said on them, but for me, I would love to. I can't see a world right now where these teams aren't every single streamer, every single podcast, every single person, steaming them out of the fucking moon. Like there's going to be smoke signals on Mars for the Cincinnati Bengals by the time we're done with this season. And understandable, but at this point, I'm one off every 5 drafts just because of where they're going to be going.
Yeah, I can't even really argue with that. It is almost entirely just a like every sign points to this team being a team that we want, and so
they're going to be the darlings.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, so I have zero pushback on anything that you said, but they are, as of right now, right? We'll double back to this in a few months or whatever. And as of right now, they're still a team I want to try. I really want to try to target, and maybe that won't work, right? Like you said, maybe you can't do it, but I just want, as of right now, that's my plan.
And I completely understand that. Like I'm not knocking the Bengals by any means. I'm not trying to be contrarian on them. I just think that it's just going to be so hard to get them is my whole thing. Like,
yep.
And I personally, I cannot take Chase and then take Higgins in the 3rd and then hope to get Burrow and then take him in the 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
What am I putting around them? So I just want to run through the board before we get out of here real quick. So we only had 4 teams on Give Me Stacks or Give Me Death. And I thought we would have more on the AFC side, but we have San Francisco, Dallas, Buffalo, Cincinnati, which I get all 4 of those teams.
Yep.
Stack, but don't go out of my way. We have 3 and 3 again. We have 3 AFC, 3 NFC. This is weird. This was not planned. Chicago, Philadelphia, and the Rams for the NFC side, and we have the Chargers, Broncos, Steelers for the AFC. One off in most drafts. We only have 5 teams in this level, which is Panthers, Lions, Seahawks, Jets, Baltimore. We're gonna get somebody's gonna yell at us for this. And then we have 107 teams in the one off, maybe every 5 drafts, which is Falcons, Vikings, Giants, Washington, Cardinals, Patriots, Dolphins, Titans, Colts, Raiders, Chiefs, and one off maybe every 5 drafts, and the Cleveland Browns. And full fade, you idiots, is the Bucks, Saints, Packers, Texans, and Jaguars at the moment. And we have some conflicting stuff.
Yes, of course. But quick, immediate gut take on this is obviously the Chiefs. People are not going to agree with the Chiefs, and that's okay. But is the one-off in most drafts, I think, are teams that most people would not agree with. It's 2 of the worst teams, maybe 3 if you put the Panthers in there. 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. Shit, the Seahawks weren't that much better than some of the worst teams in the NFL. I think the Ravens, most people would understand the Ravens, but it's a lot of kind of bad teams, but bad teams with exciting players.
Right.
That's kind of where it ended up being like, look, DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey and Robbie Anderson are on this team. DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Elijah Moore, DK Metcalf, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of good players, but the bad teams that end up being there, which I also think makes sense. At the very top was the offenses that you're like, what teams are going to absolutely blow shit up in 2022? And it's like, yeah, those are probably the 4 offenses that I'm thinking about, right? You could maybe throw the Rams in there, and I guess the Chiefs, Chargers, but the Chargers is just kind of they have so many free agents type of situation. They would be the one team that, like we said, that could really rise up there. But I think it makes sense. It's a lot. It kind of from the top down. It is the best teams, and then some hybrid of the most exciting teams in ADP, and then kind of like the best players on shitty teams, and then a bunch of like, you just shrug your shoulders and say meh. Like, yep, yeah. Maybe these teams have a couple guys that I like, but that's about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's some teams that I think we're going to come back in 4 months, and this board's going to be completely different. And that's the fun part of it, because we're drafting in the meantime. So this is relevant to the relation that, all of us sickos are drafting teams right now, and this board is relevant right now. And then when we redraft, it'll be relevant again to see like how much things have changed. And it might help you change what your draft strategy is going to be going forward. And then when we do it at the end of the year for fun, just to see how stupid we really were, it's even better because everyone, circus music again cues up. We throw some clown noses on, and we here at Spike Week, we take accountability for our takes. We're not going to sit here and just say, oh, variance. We're going to say here and say, no, we got it wrong. But guess what? When I get it right, all of you are going to know. I'm going to send out postcards to everybody. You're going to get confetti in it, and I'm going to fucking throw it out there that I got it right. But when I get something wrong, or when Erik gets something wrong, we're going to take accountability for it. And I think that is one thing that is missing a lot of times in streams. Or not just streams, but in anything that we do, is people just not. They're quick to say they did something right, but they're quick to blame variance when they're wrong.
Oh yeah,
and that's not everybody, but it is a trend that I see across the industry as I get blackballed from everybody's show.
Right. Yeah. No, this was fun. This is everybody should do something like that, at least similar to this, because it helps you. I think it's very thought provoking, even though we're kind of fucking around and joking around a little bit. It kind of helped me actually frame some of my thoughts. So now you have to, for next week, as we get out of here, you got to come up with another something new and fun to hold ourselves accountable to maybe like pre-NFL draft takes or something.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. I have the whole week off, and
there you go.
And I will just be sitting here putting together videos that make me or Erik look bad. Because seems to be the direction easy. I go.
Yeah, that's where your head goes, and it's also incredibly low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, well, that's what I like, the low-hanging fruit. So
yeah.
Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to hit on before we leave? It's been
I'm good.
All right, everyone.
I'm good.
Well, thanks for everyone for joining us on the Spike Week Football Show. Going to still work on that name, but until next week, I've been Rob. That's Erik, and we will talk to you again.